Okay, so this is going to be a relatively short tutorial on how to send key and fill video signals from your PC or laptop over HDMI into your ATEM. This is so you can carry things like transitions and graphics, such as clocks, stingers, timers, football scores, etc., into your ATEM workflow. So the reason why I'm doing this is because previously I've been stuck in the Tricaster ecosystem. So if you don't know what a Tricaster is a video mixer. I have a Tricaster Mini. I also have a Tricaster 460. So one of these. Now, whilst both are really, really good and they work really well for me, and they do work on my current camera setups, they aren't future-proof. So both of them are end of life. Both of them are stuck on Windows 7, and both of them only go up to 1080i 50, so interlace 50 or progressive 30. So not future-proof, and I'm slowly transitioning to 4K. So I'm going to upgrade to broadcast IRSs, for example. So in order to do that, I need to either purchase a new Tricaster, such as Tricaster TC1 or Tricaster TC2E. However, they are slowly becoming end of life too. And then the next Tricaster upgrade I can get is something like the Tricaster Vision. However, look at the price with VAT, it's 33 grand. It's quite expensive, and I don't have 33 grand. So my solution is to use my 1ME Studio 4K and use that as my new vision mixer and have that in my workflow, and then use my Tricaster Mini to take the split signal and use the inputs just for replays and media playback. So traditionally, if I was doing this on a PC, I would just install something like the Decklink Duo or the Decklink Quad, and that would be used as my key and fill. You could also use something like the Ultra Studio Mini, which again gives you two independent outputs that you can set to key and fill, or the new Ultra Studio Mini monitor, again key and fill. However, they're anywhere between £300 to £500 each. And if you're working on a budget like I am at the minute, then not really a solution. It is the proper way to do it, but there are ways around it, which I'm going to show today. Another reason for me is because I want to keep my workflow kind of small. So I don't want to be lugging a big desktop around me. My desktop is a custom-made £2.5 grand PC. I don't want to be lugging that around to different shows and different venues, so I just want to use my laptop. So my laptop has two HDMI outputs, and you will need two HDMI outputs for this. It has just standard HDMI output and also display over USB-C. If your laptop only has a HDMI output and not a secondary, you can get something like this USB to HDMI adapter and use that. But you will need two HDMI outputs that are independently selectable. So they need to be independent outputs. Okay, so with that said, what's key and fill? So key and fill is basically a way to send graphics over, to key out graphics essentially. So your fill signal is the logo itself with black background, and the and the key signal is the logo with a white mat over it. Anything white is opaque, so basically it means keep this. Anything black is transparent, so remove the background. Anything grey is semi-transparent. And what you do is combine them both together, and essentially it makes your graphic an alpha graphic, so a graphic with a transparent background. The way I do it in Tricaster is I would send an NDI source to the Tricaster, and it's automatically got alpha, it's already keyed out for me. ATEMs don't accept NDI, so this is the workaround to that. Even if I was to convert NDI to SDI, the SDI signal isn't going to carry that alpha on that key and fill independently. So again, this is the way around it. Okay, so how are we going to get our HDMI signal into our ATEM for the key and fill? What I've got is OBS running. So we use OBS to send these over. And I've made two scenes, a key test and a fill test. We'll leave them for a second because the first thing we need to do is set up our displays to make sure that they are set correctly. So you can see I've got two displays down here, 3 and 4. Now, you can skip this step depending on the display you have. So if you have one of the newer ATEMs, it allows different formats. So you can mix 1080i with 1080p and it'd be fine. It would just cross convert it. If you have something like the Studio 4K 1ME that I have, it's a bit of an older one, it won't let you mix and match formats like my Tricaster will. The ATEMs don't. So in order to get around that, you have to set a format. Now, PCs with modern graphics cards and Macs as well won't allow you to do interlaced. So the way around it would be to set your cameras to a certain setting and make sure it matches your PC settings, so progressive. So I would set my cameras to 1080p 30 and my PCs to 1080p 30. And that would work. However, it's not going to make a difference to me because obviously as I say, I'm upgrading to broadcast to 4Ks. So I'm in the 4K ecosystem and I can set my PCs to that and that'd be fine. In this instance though, I need to set my output to 1080p 25 because that is what my my Tricaster is going to accept. So if I show you, I'm actually mixing all of this on my Tricaster. So I have input 1 on my Tricaster is my ATEM multi-view, input 2 is the ATEM program, input 3 is my actual PC being sent to me over NDI, a mix effect for the program with the multi-view in the picture, and again, same but with the PC. I might as well actually set whilst I'm here. Actually, I can switch between that. So yeah, so I've got the multi-view on the big screen and this here for like so. But let's just keep it as it is for now. So with this in mind, once you've set your format, you're fine. Like I say, if you're on ATEM Mini, you skip 2 steps essentially because the ATEM Minis will, if you've got the HDMI version, will take HDMI as it is, and you don't need to convert the standard anyway because it will cross convert for you. If you are on an SDI ATEM and you're on an ATEM that doesn't cross convert, first set your refresh rate to the exact standard, and then come on to this next step. So the next step is to convert the signal, the output signal of the HDMI over to SDI, and you use something like a bidirectional SDI to HDMI converter. So the HDMI goes in, and then it signals and takes an SDI out. You can also convert the other way, so an SDI in, and it takes it out. When either of these aren't in use, it actually loops. So I can do HDMI in, and it will loop HDMI out, SDI in, and it loops an SDI out. They're really handy to have. £50 each without the PSU. So we've saved this out. So I've got 2 of these in my signal flow, and essentially it's going to convert HDMI to SDI, and then the SDI goes into input 9 and 10 respectively. Okay, so with that out the way, let's go into OBS. And on my fill test, I'm going to make a color input. And this color input is going to be red. And then a key input, and I'll set this to blue. And then what I'm going to do is go to my fill, right click and put preview projector and set it to Blackmagic, to the second Blackmagic. Or in fact, let me set it to the first Blackmagic. There we go. And on this one, I'm going to set the source. So the source on this one to the second, and click back on the first. And there you can see in input 9 is my red, which is going to be my fill, and input 10 is going to be my key. So they're both independent of each other. Great. So now we confirm that they're independent, what we can do is just either make new scenes or rename it. So I'm just going to rename this to fill. I'll rename this to key. Set these colors to black. And we can keep them. We'll just set them to black. Okay, so now that we can confirm that our outputs are independent of each other, next it's time to do this with an actual graphic source. Now, two ways to do this. My way would be to use a proper graphic software such as New Blue Titler or CharacterWorks, Casper CG, anything like that, to create actual proper broadcast graphics. So we will do the NDI method momentarily. This is Captivate, and I'll show you this. Otherwise, the other method will be to use something like overlays.uno. This is okay for basic stuff. It's free. It's somewhat customizable, but it's not as customizable as custom graphics, basically. Because like in New Blue, I can build out my own graphics. I can make them in After Effects, make some Photoshop files and do it that way. Actually make some motion graphics in After Effects and export those PNG sequences. There's many different ways to do it. This is how I do stuff with USD FlightPass, for example. I have a whole setup for that. So again, I'll show you a quick graphic. Delete this, delete this. Import a image sequence. So in here, I'm going to find just any graphics. So we'll do the look. Let me use my clock. My clock's the easiest one. So clock. So this will be my clock graphic. And I'm just going to add some quick text just to. Actually, I'll leave it there. Yeah, let me just add the clock. That's the easiest thing. Let me just set this up really quickly. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so that was a bit of a detour, but I made my graphic, whatever. But the first one I'll show you is overlays.uno. So log in, add a graphic on. Let's stick to the theme of boxing. So I'm just going to select this, hit the kebab menu, open it. Reset the clock. And I'm just going to play it and then come to my output settings, copy the output URL, go into OBS, and then on my fill, add a browser source. Set that to 1920 by 1080. Okay. Same for the key. Add a browser source. Do not select the same browser source. Selecting the same browser source will basically, when we add the effect that's going to give us our key, it's going to basically mess it up. It's going to apply it to both. So we want two independent sources. So what we need to do is put a plugin on this, which is a user-defined shader. So to get that, if you go to the GitHub page, which is in the description, download that, install it, and restart OBS. Once you restart OBS, right-click on the key browser input and go to filters, delete that one, user-defined shader, and then copy and paste the user-defined shader key that is in the description. But I'm going to type this by hand, so it's float 4 main image. I'm going to type it by hand because I don't actually have it in a text file at the minute. So boom, boom. Then when you're done, hit let's close this off. When you're done, hit reload effect, and you'll see the output now goes white, which means it's now giving us our matte. Just something to note as well, if you don't see the shader text box, it's because your load shader from text file is, or load shader from text from file is selected. Just untick that and then copy and paste the code in. Hit reload effect and you'll be well on your way. So if I bring up my mix effect now, you should see that import yeah, so input 9 has the key. I don't know why this doesn't. Let me send this to the source viewer. There we go. I'll put this back. There we go. So input 9 has my actual graphic. Input 10 has my key. If I now go to overlays.uno and just hit play on this, so it can't stand, and we've got some actual graphic going on. Sorry, you can see that. So if I hit play on here, then we should now see it come through. So if I go to my input on here, and let me just put the PC on, not PC, sorry, the Lehart, you'll see in the multi-view 9 and 10 has our key and fill. I'm actually going to rename that as well in ATEM, so we know what they are. If I actually come here, and you'll see them change in a second. I go to multi-view, sorry, sources, camera 9 will be fill, camera 10 is key. Hit save, and now you'll see that they've updated to key and fill, just so we have some sort of idea of what it says. Okay, so just so we can see this correctly, what I'm going to do is in my media pool, I'm just going to grab a still and drop it in my stills. That's my switcher, and make sure still is the output, which it is. If I come to switch this, one, sorry, yeah, there we go. Sorry, 1 and 3. So if we look at our, let's just make this bigger slightly so you can see it better. If we look at our ATEM software, we have what we call the keys. So at the minute, the keys are set to media player. So if I turn on the key, what it's going to do is overlay the and you see it in here. It's literally going to overlay the media player. It's not what we want. We want the key and fill. So in order to do that, if I go to the upstream key one, and in the limit settings, if I set the fill to fill and the key to key, make sure pre-multiplied key is selected, and make sure full is selected here. When you've done that, if you hit key 1 and then put the key to air, you'll now see on the output my timer's on. So now we have our graphic, and if I was to take the graphic out as a transition, you'll see it comes out. Graphic comes on, and graphic comes out. So our key and fill is working, and if you look, we've actually got pretty much bang on synchronization as well. Last time I tested this, it actually was a frame or two out on the fill, sorry, on the key. So there was just a little bit of text remaining. It's only for a split, not even a split second, it's only for a frame, it's a frame of text. But if you've got a keen eye, you may notice that. And the only way around that is literally to use a proper Decklink for a key and fill, because the HDMI will naturally not be fully synced and not gen locked. So that works. Let's reset the time, bring it in, and take that out, and bring it back in. And as you can see, the graphics working fine. So that's how you would use something like overlays.uno. So how do you use it using NDI? Very similar process, but instead of using a browser source, what you would use is NDI OBS. Download the NDI OBS plugins from distro AV. We'll take you to the GitHub link. Again, this is in the description page. Download that, install it, restart OBS. Once you've done that, head into OBS. Obviously, you've got to make sure you've got a graphic first in the first place. So I have gone using NewBlue. So my graphic floater in here, I have my sources, so my variables, fighter A, fighter B, I can change them at any time. Normally I populate this with a spreadsheet because I have a list of fights and a list of names, and I showed you an example of that. So normally I'd populate this with like a spreadsheet of my fighters' names. I've actually got a full fight controller that I've designed. It's not on this machine at the minute, because this has just been refreshed. On my actual laptop, this has a custom fight controller, which I use to control all of my graphics. It's about actually it maps to a StreamDeck, so everything's done through a StreamDeck. It's not done through this. So what I would do is productivity, spreadsheets, new spreadsheet, select the file. I've just downloaded that and put it here. Let me just link these up very quickly. So fighter A will be blue fighter, and red fighter. And then as I go through each fight, I move down here and I can select each fight. This isn't the actual graphic, the full graphic's not set up correctly, because again, it's on my old machine. I've just done this as a really, really quick test. Obviously there under, they are what we call lowercase. So I just select this guy and I would change him to all caps, and this guy to all caps. This is also a variable, so make sure it's a pattern. Again, it's kind of beyond the scope of this tutorial. I can show tutorials in NewBlue if needs be. Now, weirdly enough, NewBlue does have a dedicated ATEM setup using upstream keying, but it does it over green screen and it's not the best. So I much prefer to do it over NDI. Okay, so with all that set up, if I just go back to OBS, delete your browser inputs and add NDI inputs. NDI just allows you to send video signals over the network with alpha embedded as well. So I can send obviously a graphic with transparency. We can also see our Tricaster source. So if I come here, because it's sending a video over the network, and I can actually see my Tricaster, so I can select this and it will show me my input. I can select that and it will show me my input on the ATEM. This is my input 3, which has nothing, so which is why it's coming up as blue. Input 4 was also blank, so it comes up as blue, black. I think input 4 is not working on this Mini. Next one will show me my mix, and it's just in a loop. If I change my camera input to, let's say, the ME, I'll show you that. I will do that, etc., etc. If I set my mix to this, again, whatever. Anyway, but let's go back to Captivate and just select OK. And let's go to key and do the same process here. Add a source, add a new source, not an existing, has to be a new NDI. Add new NDI scene and Captivate again. or whatever NDI source you're using. We go to filters, add the user defined filter, click OK. Now it will be in here. There's a bug, however, and the bug I've noticed is if you add the scene in, if you add a filter in again, it's actually deleted most of the code. So just go back to the video description, copy it in. And as I don't have that there, what I'm going to do is get rid of this and just put float 4. What is it now? It's float 4 C equals, and then here, return float 4 C.A, C.A, C.A 1.0, and then hit reload effect and close out, and it should, when what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to just central control, just easier. I will set up a key for blue. Controls, try StreamDeck. Yeah, controls, and select this key and just bring this title alive. Title, and now title. If we can see it. So just so I don't have to go into this and take it off, you can see it coming in and out. It's easier. So yeah, as you can see, we have the alpha channel embedded. And then if we come to here, we can see it. I just need to reselect this as my source. Bring it back onto that, and there we go. So now if I come to input 2, you'll see my graphics come through. If I put the media player on, there we go, and we can see it come through nicely. Let's take it out. There we go. The actual way I would do this is, if I was using my graphics software, I would have a button set up so that on my actual fight controller, when I hit clock go, this says go, that starts playing. It knows what round it is, it knows what the fighters are, and then if we come back to here and I hit go, our clock will come in, our clock will count down, and whatever. Fight's over, bring it out. Fight starts, bring it in, etc. So that's really all there is to it. It is pretty simple. It's not perfect. There are issues with it, but it's a way around having to buy like a Decklink or an Ultra Studio. So if you're on a shoestring budget, this is the solution. Any questions, just file them away in the comment section, and I'll be happy to get back to you.